We're going to start with Chapter 12, which deals with designing and analyzing boundaries using parcels, which is another area of Civil 3D we're going to get into that alters the direction that we're going to learn new things. We just learned how to design roads and transportation features and various other things, and now we're going to learn a little bit more about the boundaries and lots, parcels, tracks that go around with those transportation design. More on the surveying side, but they all intermesh with civil engineering at the same time. And we'll start on page 229. So the first couple things about parcels is with roads in place that we have already done, we're going to go into the next aspect of design, which is the layout of lots. In this case, real estate lots, but it could be other lots. It could be public right-of-ways or open spaces or parks and various other things. We're going to learn about road design and lot layout being very different things, but they work hand in hand together to determine the frontage of boundaries for lots. The roads do anyways. You have to have a frontage to get to a lot, as we'll see here in a second on county website. And going back to road design, we make different adjustments to our road layout, which affects our lots that the roads serve these lots. So all these design aspects go together. And many times you're asked to design the layout of, let's say, single family lots, as well as, in this case, they do mention open space areas, community areas, utility easements, and possibly right-of-ways, special postage stamp size easements. Depends on what the easements are for. Within two lots share land usage, or one lot has to have an access to another. All these things come into play with the development of lots, and a lot of times we'll use the tools of Civil 3D to design the lots. When I say lots or parcels or tracks, I'm talking about the same thing, but in the world of Civil 3D, we'll just call them, I'll try to be my best to call them just parcels. We're talking about the same thing if I bounce between those three words, lot, parcel, or tract. And we won't get too deep into the land surveying, but with respect to Civil 3D, let's try to just say parcels encompasses all of them, but I'm using those words a bit interchangeably, okay? So when we use some Civil 3D tools to design parcels, a land developer might need to squeeze in a certain amount of parcels into a design. Other aspects to determine, maybe there's minimum frontage size for the lots. The market might have certain aspects, like we'll look at here soon, with zoning and different planning laws in your geography to determine what kind of lot density and size and various access things and amenities you need to put on the lots. Those things all go into hand in hand with the design of where we are at this bit of learning with our roads and our utilities. How many, how much, the geometry, fit in all these little cookie cutter shapes, just like that song by Pete Seeger, little boxes. We're making little boxes, basically, little boxes to put all these things on. We'll start by understanding what parcels are, and then we'll learn how to create them from objects, which is the simplest way to create parcels from lines, arcs, and polylines that you draft with AutoCAD commands. But then after that, we'll get a little more advanced to learn how to create parcels by layout, which is the Civil 3D commands to make your cute little postage stamp Pete Seeger song boxes, squeeze them into unique geometries, which you'll see as we get going. Some of these tools to help us maximize, minimize, have certain parameters to squeeze them in. And lastly, we'll learn a little bit about editing parcels, which is much like editing Civil 3D feature lines and other things. We'll see some familiar tools. So parcels are made up of segments, individual pieces, and they make a whole called a parcel object. So this lot 1, we'll find out that we click that gets the whole parcel object, but many segments make up it. And those are the segments inside of it. And parcel segments and parcels themselves must be assigned to a site in Civil 3D. And sites, in general, they work in the way that if we go on to page 231, they can contain grading, objects, or excuse me, alignments, feature lines, grading groups, and parcels. Parcels have to be on a site. They're one of a couple things that do. So anything, let's just say on the same site, you're basically telling Civil 3D that you want those objects to see each other, to interact with each other on a given site. This also, might want the opposite. You might have two different sites, like this one, grading an original parcel, when you don't want those objects to interact. An alignment to split parcels, or feature lines to interact, or grading objects between different sites. They're basically ways to keep things separated. So the end of page 231 gives it a little example of that, in that this would be a really simple schematic of the effect a site would have if you don't have them on the same site. This red alignment it's simulating would not split them. But this one, that in this picture, they would both be on the same site. And this red alignment would split into two different parcels. So there's different dynamic things we can do to make parcels, alignments, feature lines, grading objects, things on a similar site interact together when we want to, or when we don't want them to. It just depends on our development and land development, what we're trying to get after. We'll start with the simplest method by creating objects. We'll go back to this in a second on 12.1, but firstly, I want to just show you some things with a website here. We'll go to where we're at this class in Missoula County. We'll look at some quick parcels, and without getting too deep here, we can see we have our right-of-ways, which could be public, private. In this case, I would say Miller Creek Road is probably some sort of public right-of-way, and we have those are parcels in themselves. They create shapes. But we have all these residential real estate parcels. These at some point were all designed, drawn, legally sent to an entity like Missoula County, whether it was through an individual survey or a subdivision, the various things. These were created, measured. Someone in the field at some point put a pin in the ground, and these are legal entities of real estate that are very precise and exact, with legal descriptions that come with them. This is more of a GIS site. They have owners. They are tied to a survey here, in this case a subdivision, or a COS, a certificate of survey. If we open that up in a second, we can see that. Deeds, which have different, maybe say easements or transfers of ownership or various other things with that said property. I'm going to open this up quick to a PDF that goes to the said parent subdivision right here, and I'm going to open that up further. And we can see these were drawn at some point, very detailed by a survey firm in the county of Missoula. They were signed off by owners and different various entities within the jurisdiction, Missoula County, and a licensed surveyor. And these were measured, documented in the field, and they were drawn precisely in the office setting with drafting software. Some of these are 100 plus years old and were drawn by hand, but these are parcels. In Civil 3D. In this case, they're called lots, but the same thing, and they're very precise. So this is real-world application that goes hand in hand with our design of these roads. And so you can see this as we go through Missoula County along Lower Miller Creek, let's say. We have all these little parcels here. These were designed, and as we get into later in Chapter 12, these were very strategically placed to a certain size density, maybe depending on the city's planning at the time or currently. This was probably done some decades ago, and they have different size requirements, and maybe there's septic and sewer to consider, minimal, maximum frontages and setbacks for houses, where they can be put, how they can be put, so the city can dictate what kind of city gets developed, with these parcels going hand in hand with the civil engineering. So these are a really big deal that come into the picture in this part of the book. On chapter 12 into 13, we learn how to annotate them better. And they're invisible lines on the map, but there's probably some pins in the ground. There's drawings and legal documents out there somewhere, and deeds and various things. And these things were done just like the design of roads. They weren't designed in perfect geometries by accident. Someone probably did a document, did some field surveying, did some drawings at some point in time. So I'm just getting you to kind of appreciate that as a bigger picture thing, along with the Civil 3D stuff. There's plenty of transportation and civil stuff to draw, but there's also a huge aspect of land surveying at this point that goes in with making the civil stuff work. That's why you see a lot of civil engineers, for one reason, work hand in hand with land surveyors to get these projects done and conveyed simultaneously oftentimes. So I'll go into one survey I did just recently, maybe a year or so back. We did some lots. We have a private right of way. I drafted up a bunch of very precise lots with annotations showing bearings, which is angles or vectors, basically, and distances along to go to very precisely show how these lots would be laid out, showing little drain fields and how they would be laid out because there's no public sewer out here, so they had to have on-site sewer, basically drain fields and various things, and showing all kinds of little monuments to show what will be set, what will be documented, the measurements. So this can be recorded at some point in history to keep these lots a legal entity, very well defined, with different ownership requirements and sizes. And these were just lots I did a few months back in the state of Montana. So those go hand in hand with this GIS site, which is more for informational purposes and not exact survey measurements, but more for informational purposes. So with that being said, let's start into creating parcels from objects, which is the easiest, simplest way to create parcels. You can draw really complex shapes. For example, in this, I drew a lot of these parcels by hand because I had an idea what layout, or someone guided me because the houses were a certain size. And I drafted these with polylines and arcs, and then I made a quick parcel for these to do parcel checks and various things. So on some of these, I did that myself. We're about to do that in 12.1. Using lines, arcs, and polylines to make them. And it's a pretty simple once your lines, arcs, and polylines are made to make them, as we'll see here in a second. So let's go into the first drawing, creating parcels from objects. And I'm just going to go to simply the Home tab, which is our home base for Civil 3D actions. We'll go into a new area, Parcels. And this is the simplest way. We're going to learn about these later, but create parcel from objects. Select that. Okay. And we're going to select a couple objects. Now remember, I'm in Civil 3D 2022, but basically there's some weird steps here, but it doesn't seem like you're selecting anything. But I'm going to select this green line, which is the outer boundary, and then I'm going to select this magenta line. So I'm going to select one at a time. So just bear with it. Left click select, and then left click select the magenta line. And it doesn't seem like anything happened, but hit enter. It's a little bit weird. And we have some different options that's come up with creating parcels from objects. And we're just going to accept the default settings for now and go to this lot layout. These are the things that come up that were set in the Civil 3D drawing. We'll hit OK. You should see a hatching come up like this, which is kind of weird. You might be like, what the heck? But this basically made our first outer parcel, this whole outer bounded boundary. We didn't have to make a closed parcel necessarily. We just picked these two lines and it closed it off for us. So this line, and it closed it off for us. So we go into our tool space, and in our creating parcels from objects drawing, we have our parcels. We have something going on here. This is weird as well. I never understood why Civil 3D hasn't fixed this, but we have to right click this and we have to say refresh sometimes to get it to show. And here's our same parcel. So if we click on parcels, which falls under sites like we were just talking about, we named it lot layout with that default setting. You see a parcel down here. You should have about this area, which is just over an acre, 43,000 plus square feet and some change. It has its perimeter amount. It's saying if you don't have to go up here and to click here to toggle the use of item previews. So I don't use this a lot. This also refreshes everything, but let's make sure this is on. Otherwise this next step won't work. And you select on parcel and it shows a preview of it right here. What is it that you selected? You can see it here physically, but if I hover on tool space again, remember you turn tool space on here in the home tab if you need to, but if we turn that off and I select here, it just shows a blank screen. So I'll toggle this back on. That's all it's saying, gives you a little extra preview. You can even do some rotation here. It's almost like an extra object viewer. I'll put it back to top. You can rotate it around just like you can here in the wheel in your model space. So let's leave that going. And that shows us some more stuff. And we still have some stuff to add here. So this time we're going to pre-select what we want and then add the objects. Last time we picked the command first and then added the objects. This time we're going to pre-select the objects, and it's just going to be this red line on the C lot's rear. And once you pick one of them, right click and say select similar. This is a way to select anything of a very similar property and layer. So it selects all polylines of that layer, basically, and that select similar. It's a smart command I use a lot when I have things segregated by layers and type of object. In this case, similar polylines on the same layer. So at this point, we have them pre-selected. We're going to go to Parcel, onto the middle of these steps, and say Create Parcel from Objects once again. Remember, I have those pre-selected. The only thing we're going to change here is the parcel style. We're going to go to, I believe, Property, and leave everything else for the default Civil 3D settings for now. We'll hit OK. You should have two more parcels that get created on each side. We're starting to split them out. These open parcels don't have the hatching. This one gets made. We'll go back to our prospector tab within tool space and take a look. See this weirdness here. We'll do refresh. And now we have a few parcels. Okay. Now we're going to add some more stuff. Well, it wants us to click on the basic one parcel now. Just click this to get a preview of it. Okay. We can kind of get previews of these too. And we're going to add some more parcel data here. So we're going to click one of the dash right-of-way lines. Let's find those bad boys. Here they are. That's just one of them. You can know it's this kind of burgundy purplish color, but it should say C our way. C design right-of-way basically is what that layer means. Pick one of them. See the grips are on. I'm going to right-click and say select similar again. I got them all selected. These were pre-drawn polylines that I know is going to be my right-of-way, much like if you went to the city of Missoula, I'm establishing a right-of-way here and later parcels on the outside of it. In this case, we'll go back to Parcel, since we have them pre-selected, and create Parcel from Objects. They're already selected. They're populating in here. And in this case, let's go to Create Parcel from Objects again. And it says keep all the default settings. You could probably pick something else here, but let's just keep these on property for now. And we have more parcels created. It's starting to segregate into different parcels based on the things we have drawn. And now we'll go into our parcels again in tool space and take a look, but we have to refresh them again. We have 7 basically now of these various sizes. I don't know if I did it perfectly, but this was the gist of it. Was we got this right-of-way one here now, which is the key. And we got some other larger parcels. We're going to later do some tools to carve little boxes inside of these larger polygons to make smaller parcels on these ones. So that's the end of this first exercise. We're going to start talking about a little bit on making parcels by design here and some terminology on page 235. So making parcels with AutoCAD design in mind with polylines and arcs are really the most surgical way to make parcels, drawing with very geometric principles in mind. But as we go by layout, what if you need to create parcels that occupy a very specific area and segments that are, say, perpendicular to the road frontage, or say parcels that meet a minimum depth requirement with a minimum size and they balance out areas? That can be very hard to do to keep optimized, like a calculus kind of problem with areas based on a couple variables. Creating parcels by layout helps you balance some of those variables out so you can control them and optimize things instead of drawing them with basic geometry and doing it all manually. It helps to speed some of this up. So we'll see what that means shortly. But let's go over some survey talk and some parcel and legal boundary talk here. So a parcel or a lot, in some places a tract. We'll just call it in this case a piece of land that is delineated by a legal boundary. So all these different parcels in this city here, those are parcels or lots with their boundaries. Bearings, or we could say they're the vectors. It's a horizontal direction. They only apply to the horizontal, so not vertical, and they're expressed in degrees east-west of a north-south direction. So that's a little confusing, but north 25 degrees east, for example, means you face north first and then rotate to the right or to the east 25 degrees. So bearings basically have distances with them after that to define parcel lines. Some people call them meets and bounds. So you have a bearing and a distance that oftentimes define a parcel line. So like on my drawing here, for this line of lot 55A, I have a bearing and a distance. So I have a vector and a magnitude, or a direction and a distance. So in this case, we can think of this as if I had a line going this direction, north-south, let's not use that highlighter, this direction, this bearing would say south to the east at 50-some degrees. So we use the north-south line first, and then we start on the south one and we turn to the east 56 degrees and some change. It's a little hard to explain, but let's just say I have a up and down line here, and we make this one in the middle. Up and down, what I meant by that is north and south, and then east and west. So if we make a line, it'd be saying, I want to start here to the south. It would rotate 56 degrees this direction to the east or to the right, so give or take. I can do that more exactly using Civil 3D. I can go here to the draw with line, create line. So I can create line, let's say very common, by bearing. So most of the times on surveys, they're bearings and distances. So I'll say, where's my first point? Let's just call it here. I can say, hey, which quadrant do I want to go into? Well, I want to base everything off to the northeast. We have the northwest, southwest, southeast, just like a map. I'll say I want to go to the northeast quadrant. I know my bearing is here. And now I want to specify my exact bearing. Once I'm in this quadrant, it only lets me draw in this quadrant. I want to say, to get degrees, minutes, and seconds, I just type it as a decimal degree. So I can type in, let's type in 50. I'll use decimal, and this would simulate 11 seconds, or 11 minutes, and let's say 27 seconds. I write in a decimal format, I enter, and now I have my bearing. And I want my distance. Just like you're surveying in the field, I'll type 400 for the distance. Okay? And that draws that polyline at that amount. So if I do a CG list, or if I go to Analyze, and I use some of my Analyze inquiry methods here, let's hover on a few. We got distance and area, angle, we got slope. Really, the one I want is this one that gives CG list, a little more land surveying friendly. And I pick it, and here I have my distance and my course, or my bearing, 50 degrees, 11 seconds, 11 minutes, 27 seconds east. So I can verify I drew it exactly. So that's a little bit of 101 on that. That's a little extra that helps you draw like a surveyor. Right away, basically is a strip of land used for transportation or something public, let's say. It's commonly expressed with a constant width, say 60 feet. and width on each side of a center line. Usually there's a center line, say 30 feet on each side, equally for, not always, right-of-ways can get unique. Frontage is on the front of a place. So when we look at Missoula County, for example, this is the right-of-way. Let's just say this is 60 feet with a center line, even 30 feet, 30 feet. Well, this parcel here, this is its frontage. This is where it faces its access point, its right of way. Almost every lot is going to have some kind of frontage in an urban environment. Even lots and parcels and stuff that are in bigger areas have to have some kind of access for them a lot of times to be created legally. So these ones are in an urban environment. This is the frontage. And the next term is setbacks. That's saying, hey, from the rear, the front, and the sides, these two sides, what's the minimum distance I can do a building? In the front, what is this distance of a setback? Or in the rear, what's this distance? Or in the side, what's this distance? There's certain different planning requirements that sometimes dictate how dense housing can come in a municipality or a given zone. That was our next term, which is a very key one. An easement, this is just another legal term, a strip of land that's, let's say, someone is given a right to use for a certain purpose, but no one owns. Someone generally owns it, but two different users or entities, sometimes with a private landowner, a utility easement might go through a strip area to give a utility company the right to install and maintain a utility line within a certain area of the person's property. That's a perfect way of saying it. So this drain field mixing zone easement I created here legally, and someone, it's mostly for the benefit of this lot, but this is not, they don't own it, but this mixing zone can leak out into this area. So this can be used and maintained for this lot to maintain their sewer system. Same here with this easement here. We have an area that is basically a little strip of land. This frontage of land, this is an easement, say, for the utilities to run through. So this lot here, this private landowner owns this strip of land, but they don't have the full usage of it to build buildings. The utility company has usage to maintain and use their utilities through this easement. So they still own the land, but there's certain accesses and easements given to very specific entities legally, and that's an easement in short. And zoning, lastly, is a way of dividing large areas of land into zones that dictate different land use requirements. For example, one size zone might say, hey, minimum lots built here can be 5 acres. Well, another might be a quarter of an acre. So a lot of these lots might say a minimum half acre. But if we go into a different part of the city, we have a lot of our cookie cutter looking shapes here and cul-de-sac kind of things of the 20th century. And now we get into a little more lot and block format, a little more grid style. These are probably a much tighter density, and we can go to even some other areas with some even tighter density. For example, maybe we had some subdivisions over here of a very tight townhome variety with very little setbacks. They literally build the houses right in these lot lines. This is a different zoned area of this area of the city of Missoula, for example. And so is this one. This has a different zoning density. These are probably closer to 0.15 acres, and these ones here are just a sliver of that. They're 1/4 of that, 0.04 acres, or not even quite 2,000 square feet. So whereas these lots are in a different zoning of closer to 6,000 square feet, give or take. So there's a lot that goes into that with zoning, and that's my shortest explanation I could do. That resides on page 235, but that's very good terminology with drawing parcels and stuff as a designer and a surveyor. And we'll learn a little bit about lot line tools as we make some of these to add a couple points, fix curves, changing curves, and drawing tangent with no curves here along lot boundaries. So we'll start with exercise 12.2. Let's go to the second file using the lot line tools. We're going to go back to the Home tab, and we're going to pick, this time, the parcel area. here, and we're going to do the parcel creation tools, which will bring up our parcel layout tools. Yours will probably come up with this chevron unexpanded, but this lets us have more. Okay. So let's go back one step, try it again. My screen bogged out. I'll go to parcel creation tools. You can expand this or not. And we're going to pick the add fixed lines to 2 points. Pick that. Let's go zoom. Well, first let's accept the default settings, hit OK. Let's zoom into here. Make sure your endpoint O-snap's on, however way you need to. Right click or shift or control, or make sure it's on and running O-snaps. Let's pick the endpoint here to draw this line, and then we want to kind of make it intersect here, but it wants to go to endpoint. Let's hold control, right click, or shift and right click at the same time, or hold control first and then right click, or hold shift and then hit right click. You'll get one-time O-snaps. Again, let's use perpendicular. There. And my parcel was made. Hit enter. Let's hit escape twice to end that command. Excuse me. So I made this little parcel here, basically smaller, this little area. It's going to be our administrative area or a clubhouse for this whole, old people in Phoenix subdivision, we can call it, or something like that. Let's do Control+Z. Let's undo that real quick. So my parcel area is its original. It's a very large area, 430,000 plus square feet. Let me hit Control-Y to redo. Let's redo a couple things. And yeah, this just shows my small parcel there. So that's all I was doing on that part. And now we're going to make another parcel. So let's go back here, zoom out a little, and go to Parcel, create Parcel creation tools. And now we're going to go to a different area to click Draw Tangent right here. Draw tangent with no curves. So this is just going to be something that's going to be smart enough to, if we click that, to go to the outer extents of the property we made, and then make its own little parcel, but no curves inside of it. So once again, let's just hit OK to accept all this. And I'm going to go in here. We'll start in the north end of the fence and work my way to the south and to the west. So let's pick right here. The fence hits. And let's just have our endpoints pick on our O-snap. We're making this existing parcel its own little cutout. Let's hold shift and right click this time, same as control, and then hit right click. We'll do perpendicular to there. And we just made our last selected point here to make this parcel. Let's hit escape twice to escape the command. I made another parcel here. So this is the parcel object. If I select that, which shows as a parcel, okay. This is the same thing. When I select this parcel I just made, you can see its outer highlight of its segments, but this is the parcel object. This is how you most easily select a parcel in model space and graphically. So we made these two parcels with create parcel tool commands automatically. So let's skip to the next area, 12.3, which gets a little more into the parcel sizing tools, which are by far the more powerful things to use here. They basically help, and we're going to help optimize little parcel layouts inside of these little geometries, as we see somewhat in maybe a city layout here. We might help optimize these in a whole block area, or maybe along a curve here. We're going to optimize them into fitting into a certain basic geometry with certain constraints, widths, various things. So we're going to get into that on page 2 39. There's a few different types. The main three tools we have are slide line create, swing line create, and freeform create. So I'm a little rusty at them, but I know they're very specific to different movements of your geometry. But let's talk about them. So this first one, the slide line tool, is probably one of the easier ones, but it's still kind of complex. It creates more lots by sliding along a line on the frontage until all size and dimension requirements are met, and it fits them as best as it can in the pieces of the pie. The swing line create method takes a fixed point, it tries to hold it kind of like this image is showing in the red, and it pins that, and it swings around this fixed point and intersects around as it goes around. Basically, it results in more lots that would radiate outward from, let's say, this one little swing point. They shoot out from it. And the freeform create is somewhat similar to that, but it lets you attach both ends to make a very specific angle. And in this case, a lot of times it is perpendicular until it runs into another parcel and just splits. It's kind of a good one to use as a remainder. But let's get into 12.3, into the third file, and to try use our first couple parcel sizing tools to automatically create some parcels. Here we go. So we'll go to Parcel and Parcel Creation Tools again. And in this time, we're going to go to the slide line create, not edit. Use that later. We'll hit OK. We'll pick on property 25, which is picking on the parcel object. Pick that. It wants us to pick a start point. I would have it zoomed out to about this level. Pick endpoint right about there. Move it down with the orange cursor, you'll see. Pick this endpoint here near the PC 11 plus 83.23. And specify an angle. We'll type in 90. Hit enter. We create a parcel there. So we can keep hitting enter so they keep coming, which it doesn't have us do. But I'll show you that can be done. It makes them of even sizes and geometries, keeping their at 90 degrees until we run out of space here. So I'm just going to hit enter until it's done. I'll hit escape twice. We made some parcels with similar area entities at 90 degrees. So let's go back into parcel creation tools, and this time let's go to this area and say swing line create. And we'll click the label, we'll hit OK on this. Click the label, it says property 2. And I zoomed in here to property 2. After clicking it, it said this is our point of interest. Let's click on this frontage. Pay attention to what this is saying. It said, where do I want to start? Now it's saying select an end point on my frontage. Well, let's follow this. Let's see if I can get it to go on the first try here. And we're prompted for the endpoint of my frontage. Move it way over here in the westerly direction. It looks like graphically it wants us to go there. And let's pick that. So now it says specify a swing point. This is kind of one of the key steps. And kind of confusing instructions. It says where do I want to swing it around. It says something about the property boundary over here, which it's swinging it. Give that a try. And keep in mind, we'll go into this later, but these minimal area requirements and stuff and frontages are trying to be held as I do this. And remember to use this chevron to turn this up and down to get your parcel sizing and auto layout stuff going on right there. And now we're going to manipulate this to the minimal area, and we're going to do 1 acre to the minimal area. And I'm going to type physically 1 acre. And hit enter. So I typed in acre, it accepted that, and it converted it to square footage, which 1 acre equals 43,560 square feet. We're getting my sizing dialed in. Okay. I'll hit enter again to create yet another parcel. So this parcel might be used, and my environmental agency said, hey, these have to be I have to have a 1 acre preservation area here to mitigate, environmental impacts elsewhere on the site. Well, we'll accept that. And we'll say, we created this 1 acre parcel here in the corner for it. So we'll just say, before I make this second parcel, let me hit escape, because I already made this 1 acre parcel here, which was the main intent that we see. So we got our little preserve area that's needed to mitigate, let's say, environmental impacts in this case. And if you won't notice, when I hit escape a couple more times, this parcel command leaves, which I find really annoying, but we'll bring it back up again in the Home tab, Parcel Creation Tools. And we're going to try the third editing sizing automatic option, Freeform Create. We'll just accept OK. This is basically just a beginning preview of you could just freeform put in a parcel line that's going off of other parcel segment lines. It's smart enough until it intersects another one. So this live moving is kind of showing what it wants to initially start to do. Okay. So it helps us decide where the initial parcel start point is going to be. And I'm not going to do this perfectly. I'm going to pick somewhere here to the east of this property 25 label like it says. And then I'm going to move this somewhere. This is basically where the parcel will get created. And I think if I hit enter, it will become perpendicular. Yes, it will, as it says here. So I could have this like this, but if I hit enter, it remains perpendicular by default, which is awesome. So that was a freeform create. Let me make another one here. Pick there. Let me pick to a point. Let's pick to that center. Say I went to the center of the circle, I hit enter, I'll hit escape. I made 2 of them here. I made an extra one. So that was the freeform create. It lets you get a little more creative, moving around, a little more dynamic. I won't go into details on page 243, but we're going to start learning about parcel sizing layout parameters that help you dictate different, basically, items of variables to say what kind of lot layout you have. And we have minimum area. Obviously, that means the smallest area that a lot can occupy, as we did in that corner lot. Common, that designers have to meet that to satisfy zoning. Minimum frontage, just as the graphic dictates, that's the smallest frontage along a right-of-way we can maintain as we're going to go. Minimum frontage at an offset. So maybe we have an offset, like a setback line where a house would start as close as it could to the frontage. We try to get that minimum width going on, or frontage, aka same thing, so we can match all kinds of houses that are getting developed there. We might hold a frontage offset. This parameter is used to hold a building setback line. We might make that a certain way. Minimum width, that's kind of the minimum width anywhere along the parcel, as tight as it gets. Same as the graphic. Minimum depth, the exact opposite, the smallest it gets in this direction, not the width direction. Maximum, the same thing. Prevents a depth from getting any more deep than what you tell it to. Provides more efficiency, likely. Maximum depth is allowed for a parcel that goes perpendicularly. And we have some different things that use multiple solution, use smallest areas along corners or shortest frontage. So these are kind of tricky to understand until you mess around with them. When there's many solutions, say for a corner lot, this will produce different results. One produces a small shortage frontage right here, let's say, and one produces the smallest area. So those can be done differently. Automatic mode, this basically says all these parcels will be created automatically all at once. Automatic mode off, you have to keep hitting enter like I did before, so one at a time can populate. And some of them, these explain themselves. We have an extra parcel as the remainder. This one says that remainder goes into the final parcel. It fits them as best they can to a certain requirement, and the last one has a remainder. Well, in this third one option, we'll get into this little remainder originally gets redistributed amongst all three. This is a very handy one to make all lots the same size with a given parameter. Let's say this shape we have here. So all three can be equal as we go. So let's go into exercise 12.4 and create multiple parcels quickly. Move to 12.4 using parcel sizing parameters. We'll go to where we're familiar already, parcel creation tools. Here are some of these sizing options we just went over. This is them in tabular form. We saw them in graphical form, which helped explain them a lot. So I'm going to once again do the swing line create, getting ahead of myself. And we got to pick a parcel to be subdivided. Always watch your, especially on these commands, watch your command bar. It tells you what you need to do next. If you get a little confused, let's pick the parcel. This is picking it right here. We want parcel 30. And it says we want a start point of the frontage. It says with our heads up prompt here, and it also says it in our command bar. So heads up prompt and command bar work hand in hand. Let's pick a point. Let's go very exact to that image there on page 245 and pick there. This is kind of tricky. So follow this along very close to the line you want to stay to. If you go over here, it's going to do crazy stuff. It's going to bounce around. Try to follow the line relatively close. Keep following it. We'll go around. If you bounce too far from the line, it does some craziness and wants to go other places. Let's pick, looks like right here on the picture on page 245 is endpoint. Okay. Oops, I found out I have the wrong one. I don't want the swing point. Let's hit escape. Let's try this again. I want the slide line create. I did the swing line by accident. Try that again. Let's pick the parcel 30. Let's go to my start point here. Follow the orange. It's your friend, big time on these, to help you go where you know you want your frontage to be calculated on. All the way to here. Let's pick right there. Okay. It's saying which angle do we want. We're going to hit enter because that's going to accept it as 90. In the parcel layout, tools toolbar, let's type in this here into minimum size for our minimum area to 1.333 acres. Let's hit enter. That converts it to square footage. The preview of the parcels is shown at this time. I should have had it a little more zoomed out, but it's going to start making them up here. If I hit enter, it's going to keep making them. So we're going to change some following parameters on the next page on 246. We're going to change the minimum frontage here as we make these. Leave everything open, hit enter, and we're going to hit frontage offset to 25. That bounces out. And remainder distribution, we're going to distribute the remainder at the end here. Okay. Multiple solution preference. We haven't touched that. We're going to use smallest area. Remember our graphics? These are really handy to help us understand this. Whoever did the programming on this did a pretty good job, but they're hard to follow. Now we'll hit accept result. And now our new parameters take form that we changed here with the frontage and the minimum widths. And there we go. So maybe I change this to 50 now. My frontage changes. Let's just keep hitting enter. I'm making these as I go. There we go. Made some parcels with some various things, maybe not perfectly, but I made them with a few setting tweaks as I went, and we saw that. And that's the end of this area. We're going to learn about editing parcels now. So we have three primary ways to edit parcels. One's with grips, as we've gotten used to. One's with edit geometry commands, and the last one's with parcel layout tools. So let's look at editing parcels using grips on 12.5. Editing parcels using grips. We'll zoom into the parcel on the property 28 here. I picked the parcel here, so this one here. Okay. We'll start with grips. They're easiest to get. We pick the northern part of property 28. We can simply move the parcel. That kills it right there, which we don't want that. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. But maybe we keep the grip to something. If we do nearest, we keep it right there. We have to keep it intersecting some of these lines. Basically, it just says click on a couple various things, which I'll go back. I'll undo this, Control plus Z. But really what's important with this one is it has just two square grips that can be moved in any free form when you see a square grip. And on this one, basically we pick this one, we have a slider grip because this was made with the slide function. This has a different grip, so it's constrained. It's only staying 90 degrees, and it slides like this. So depending on how you made the parcel is what grips you have to maneuver with. So that's all in that area of the book. Pretty simple. And the parcel, as you notice, updates dynamically with the area and its entities that make it unique. So go to page 248. We're going to learn about editing parcels, the edit geometry commands in Civil 3D now. These are familiar ones you will see more and more. They're very similar to the commands you would edit a survey figure or a feature line. Very similar. We have inserting and deleting points of intersection or PIs. We have break. And also keep in mind they're very similar to regular AutoCAD commands for manipulating things like polylines and circles and basic AutoCAD objects. You would break them, break a section out of them. You would trim them along a cutting edge. You could join pieces as long as they have coincident touching points. You can reverse the direction of the line. You can edit a curve that you can change the radius of a curve segment. You can fillet a curve in, which fillets into an area. You can fit a curve based on certain entities, and you can offset. So this is like a super offset. It is an offset with a possibility of elevation. So a stepped offset. It's a feature offset, so you can offset in the elevation and in the horizontal, in the vertical and the horizontal, basically. So I'm going to get into the sixth file on page 248 and 249 here. And once this is zoom in the area of the farm buildings over here, which is near property 26, some weird little sliver property that got created here, which is kind of an accident. Let's get into that. So let's click on property 28. So when I click on a property, or excuse me, a parcel, so I click on it again, I have a parcel picked with various entities and Civil 3D properties, but I also, in this case, shows the parcel here in my contextual ribbon and what available things I can do with this, make profiles and gradings and create points on it, renumber, rename it. But we want to go more to a different area, and I'm going to go to the edit panel, the edit geometry panel. I have to click this first to get that visible. Let me give that a try again. I have the trim command selected once again. Okay. and we'll cut this edge. Let's hit enter. I got my trimming edges. There we go. So let me hit undo, Control Z, see that again. Let's select the property. My contextual ribbon comes up. Make sure these are turned on. In this case, you just need the horizontal, but let's turn them both on. We'll go to trim. And let's get our cutting edges, what we're going to cut about, which will be this fence line it's saying in the book. Also do a lasso like that. Let's hit enter to accept that as my cutting edge, and let's trim. Didn't quite work that time. Select that as my cutting edge. Enter. Try it again. This time let's pick multiple things as cutting edges. Now hit enter. It worked my first time. Yeah, these commands can be pretty clunky. They almost can be easier to draw with polylines. Enter. Try it one last time. You probably just delete this parcel out, but trying to prove something here. Pick two things and now I'll pick it. Anyway, that's the trim command that worked on the first go. We'll go to step 6 to property 7. We'll click on property 7 to get the parcel queued up. And then we're going to go to the edit curve option here. It edits the radius of a feature line arc, parcel line arc, or survey line arc. So feature lines, parcel lines, and survey lines. And the new arc is displayed as we go. So let me pick that. And it wants us to pick this curve here, just north of the property 7 label. It recognizes it. Edit feature line curve. Let's change some things. We can change the radius here. It's the only thing that let us change right now. And let's just hit OK. Updates our parcel and the associated other parcel which touches it, which is property 6. And as you saw, that worked pretty well in dynamic that time. So these are the same dialog box areas that you'll get used to with feature lines. So let's hit escape twice to clear the current command and the current selection. Let's zoom to the western edge of the property 2 parcel. Where's property 2? So another thing you could do if you're lost and you have too many things, go to tool space, go into your sites and say property and say select, or you can zoom to. I don't know why it went to that. I'm in file 6, so make sure you're in the right file. And oh, yeah, I got a lot of files open here, so be careful sometimes when you have master view open. You have many files. You could change it to active drawing view, so only one file is in the tree at a time. That's probably smart with all these files open. So we have a lot of files. This helps you find them quicker. Say select or zoom to. Okay, there it is. We're just getting a lot to look at. All right, what are we going to edit on this one? We're going to click the delete point of intersection. And we're simply going to select the object. Now I'm deleting PIs. That's not exactly what I wanted to do, so let me hit undo a couple times. Let's say delete PI. Got that. Now maybe let's add a PI. So that's basically just me messing around, not going exactly on their instructions, deleting and adding PIs. This could be done by grips as well. Okay. I might go into this parcel segment. I'll click on the parcel object first. I might say insert PI. Do it again. Enter. Do a second one, hit enter. Do a third one, hit enter. And we can take those out again. So there we go. We'll go into the last exercise. We're going to edit parcels using the parcel layout tools. So first we use grips, and then we use the edit geometry tools up here, which are a lot like feature lines. And lastly, we're going to use the parcel editing tools. So for the most advanced parcel editing, we'll look at these tools. And basically they're edit tools for the slide line and the swing line edit commands. We instead of recreating them, but instead of creating brand new ones, we can slide and rotate them to meet new requirements instead of making new ones. So let's go into the final area of this chapter, editing parcels using the layout tools. And we'll start by going to property 28. And like I said, if you're having trouble finding it because we have so many, turn it on to master view first and go to your parcels out here. And there's a preview of it. We'll hit select. I can kind of see it highlighted, but we'll go to zoom to finish it off, or pan to. There's our parcel 28. We have it selected. And we'll go to parcel layout tools on the ribbon, which is a new spot. We'll pick our parcel and we'll say parcel layout tools. This is our most advanced area, way to edit these since we already have it created. But we're going to go into here to say, hey, I want to edit a slide line or a swing line. The freeform create's pretty easy to edit because it grips. You can move the grips wherever you want once they're made. In this case, we're going to go to the not there first. Let's type in basically some parameters. So we'll start with the minimum area. Instead of square footage, I'll put 0.05 and physically type in acres. So that should look like that in square footage. And at this point, let's pick our, we'll go to slide line edit. Okay. Whoop. Try that again. Got my parcel picked. Let's go to parcel layout tools. Once my parcel's picked in the contextual ribbon, that's already still set. Slide line edit. Okay, this is the right dialog box. I'll confirm that. We'll hit OK. It says when I'm prompted, select an attached lot line to adjust. It says grab the southern one here, the southern boundary, and it's saying which parcel to adjust. It has some highlighting going on here. It's basically saying which of these two you want to adjust. It says, so I want to kind of click somewhere inside of parcel 28, pick in there. And it wants us to pick a start point on the frontage to select. So it wants us to start pick to the northwest corner of property 28, okay, which is up here. And next, it wants us to snap, move the cursor southward, for example, along our eastern right-of-way edge of Jordan Court here to and along somewhere near station 7 plus 00 or 700, somewhere in here, close enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we're redefining the frontage for this parcel, basically, is all we're doing. And let's just pick somewhere in here. We don't have to get it exact. Pick there. Specify angle. We could say an angle of 45 or 50 degrees, but if we hit enter, it'll accept it as 90. Okay. And I'll zoom up here to accept the resized. Yes. That new red, dark red. I'll set yes. I'll accept that. It changed this parcel to exactly half an acre, 21,780 square feet, using these tools. Did it really surgically without having to calculate it a bunch of times, which I can tell you I've done manually a lot. Let's press escape a few times to exit all these commands. And let's click on the parcel 27 property, which is up here. And we'll go back here once again to parcel layout tools on the ribbon. Okay. And on the parcel layout tools toolbar, we're going to go to parcel union. One I haven't used in a while. There it is. Instead of, we can take away a union or, divorce it or make it. So we'll click on parcel union. And it's looking for the destination parcels. You can see in my heads up prompt and also in my command bars, the same thing going on. When you're prompted for the destination parcel, let's click on the property 3 label. Okay. And basically, this entire parcel became one, slightly over an acre. As you saw, parcel 27 disappeared, parcel 3 gained area, and this is the whole thing. It all became one. Without leaving that, let's go back to dissolve parcel union. And I'll click on parcel 3. It will separate them again because I didn't delete out these parcel segments. I can bop back and forth between having them together or not together, union or not. So there we go. That was just a quick command on parcel unions. This sub-entity editor would allow you to delete things or edit them. Tabular editor we won't go into. This lets you pick very specific areas of a parcel. But that is it for chapter 12. We'll move into displaying and annotating parcels into chapter 13.